So it turns out I was wrong. It turns out that the GSL Code S, in the middle of their tournament, decided to start playing with the new multiplayer balance patch, as well as all of the new maps. Now that is a surprise to me. Historically, StarCraft 2 tournaments, especially the ones that are running for a long time, so in the case of the GSL Code S, I think it's about a 6-week tournament or so in 2024. In the round of 8, which is what this particular series is from, they decided to change to the new patch as well as the new maps. Now, game number 1 for today, it takes place on a map called Alcyone. So that one you've probably seen before, because I have certainly featured this one probably hundreds of times on the channel over the last half year or so. But playing right here with the red Protoss pieces, we have none other than Classic, and his opponent in this best of 3, he goes by the name of Maru. Now, unless the Korean pro gamers knew something that I don't, I'm pretty involved in the StarCraft community, as you may have already guessed. I am fairly sure that these guys did not know that the new patch would be live. As a matter of fact, I think this series was played maybe 12 hours or so after the new patch went live on the Asian StarCraft 2 server. The Asian server is always the last server that gets updated, so usually the servers obviously take turns, right? So we have an American server, a European server. The Asian server always gets updated last. And I'm fairly sure that these guys had no idea that they would be playing on the new patch with the new maps as well, unless they were given the heads up. But honestly, Blizzard, let's just say they haven't really been very communicative over the last couple of years. I'm excited to see that there is a new patch, but even though this patch is supposed to affect Terran versus Protoss quite a bit in favor of Protoss, I can also imagine that this series is not going to be very representable as far as that goes, because these guys will probably be playing the strategies they've been preparing for a while. So the advantage of running a tournament that goes on for quite a bit is that you know who you're going to be facing in advance, and therefore you can prepare for your match, right? Usually in the weekend tournaments, you do have a little bit of time to prepare, but it's not going to really give you a lot of time to study your opponents. So I think that these two will probably be playing the game like they would have in the previous patch. I don't think we're really going to see a whole lot of adjustments. But the reason I figured out that they are playing with the new patch is because I had a quick look at the map vetoes for this particular best of 3. So Maru vetoed Dynasty, Golden Aura, and Amphion, with, of course, Dynasty and Amphion being new maps. And Classic ended up vetoing Crimson Court, Site Delta, and Post Youth. Those, obviously, the last two are also... No, Crimson Court, Crimson Court and Post Youth. Those are the new maps, with Site Delta, one that we already had in the previous map pool. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is, if they are playing the new maps, they are certainly also playing the new balance patch, because it can be kind of tricky to actually add the old balance patch to a custom game. The order for this particular series is Alcyone Game 1, Oceanborn Game 2, and if we need it, Ghost River Game 3. That would be kind of sick. I don't really know if this game goes to, or the series rather, goes to a Game 3, but I'm secretly hoping it does, because I haven't really seen a whole lot of games on the new maps just yet. Now, of course, I'm going to try and bring you the best games of StarCraft 2, as per usual, but also the ones on the new map, with the new maps rather, with the new balance changes. So if you are interested in watching more StarCraft 2 moving forward, do make sure you hit that subscribe button. I try to upload new videos pretty much every day. Now, what in the world is this? Classic immediately making use of some changes here. We've got ourselves a Sentry Opener, which is already a little bit funky, but that is a Robo Facility together with a Stargate. Now, what in the world is the Stargate for? At this time of the... Really? We're gonna take a third Nexus as well? So I guess he can go for like a, I don't know, a random Oracle or something along those lines. But if it's up to Maru right here, he is gonna throw a curveball already, bringing that newly updated Cyclone to the front here. Trying his very best at the very least to potentially just straight up win the game against this very wild Protoss opener. We're gonna need to make some units. We don't really have a whole lot. At this point, it's just a single warp gate. We're gonna be forced to pull probes here. A costly exchange here for our Protoss player, for sure. But he does have a quick third Nexus, I suppose. Speaking of quick third bases, though, there is one right here as well for Maru. I guess I can verify. Yeah, this is definitely the new patch, because the Cyclone has got 130 HP. So real quick rundown before this game really gets underway. I hope I have a little bit of time to give you a quick refresher on what actually changed for this particular matchup. So for the Terran, the Advanced Ballistics ranged upgrade for the Liberator, it's been reduced from 3 to 2. The Widowmine, one of the most significant unit changes. Its invisibility while reloading now requires the Drilling Claws upgrade instead of an armory. The splash damage, and this is a big one, has been reduced from 1.75 to 1.5. So basically, the Widowmine just deals less splash damage compared to what it used to do. We have an Oracle, by the way, coming up, which is kind of funny. The Widowmine also gives an attack alert to the enemy units when burrowing in range of enemy units. So you should get the notification that you're under attack a little bit earlier, which is great. And then there's also increased visibility of a targeting line on the the targeted unit. So you can kind of see whether or not it's gonna be attacking you soon. It's like a thicker red line, if I'm not mistaken. So that should be making the defense against Widowmines a little bit easier, and I guess against Widowmine drops, I mean, it's still going to be a powerful tool, don't get me wrong. But against Widowmine drops, Protoss should have a slightly easier time. This strangely timed Oracle is really cracking me up a little, though, because this is 6 minutes into the game. A random Oracle shows up and kills a bunch of SCVs, okay. I don't think this guy is really going to justify the cost of the Stargate. I think the original intent here was, well, he's getting a good number of worker kills. Maybe I shouldn't criticize it too much. Got one more? Yeah, there you go. 7 workers. It's not bad at all. Huh. Alright. Fair enough. The other changes for the Terran, we have the armory. Cost reduction, it's now 50 gas cheaper. Engineering bay, infantry, weapons, and armor upgrades are also a little bit cheaper for 2.2 and 3.3. The Cyclone, another unit that got a bunch of changes. The weapon cooldown has been increased. The lock-on now has a cooldown that also has been increased from 0 seconds to nearly 3 seconds. The damage bonus per weapon upgrade has been increased from 1 to 2, although I think, and I'm citing this from the official Blizzard website, but if I'm not mistaken, I think they reversed that change. Don't quote me on that, but I'm fairly sure that change actually did not end up making it through. The weapon also had turret tracking, so it turns faster and has a removed damage point, and health has been increased, like I said, from 110 to 130 hit points. The Raven, last change for the Terran. The Raven can now no longer cast. Ah, that's what we're doing here. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. We've got ourselves a double Stargate, triple Stargate maybe even, into Mass Tempest right from the start here for Classic. Very cool. So Classic is going straight into, we can almost call this like Mech Protoss. Yeah, he is going straight into the heavy hitters for the Protoss, rather than focusing on that Mass Stalker Zealot army that I've seen so much over the last couple of weeks. Very cool. Anyways, the last change for the Terran. Man, this is a bit of a chaotic video so far. I apologize, but I just wanted to bring you all up to date, or maybe at the very least refresh you as to what the changes are like. The last change is the Raven. The interference matrix can no longer target units that are already affected rather by the interference matrix. So you can't, for example, chain interference matrix a Colossus, which I don't think is going to be very relevant for this particular matchup. So a bunch of nerfs on the side of the Protoss overall, or on the side of the Terran rather, which is going to be a buff for the Protoss, I think. Should be quite a nice improvement, albeit a relatively minor one. Then we have the Protoss. The Protoss Observer build time has been reduced by about 4 seconds. The health and shields has been increased by about, 10 shields on top. No, it's 10 additional shields on top of their previous shields. What that means is that they shouldn't die from splash damage caused by Widowmines as easily anymore, which is kind of nice. So right now, if you have a group of Stalkers together with a Observer and you attack move on a Widowmine, the Widowmine will not be able to also kill the Observer, which is kind of neat. And then the Pylon's sight radius, the sight range rather, has been increased from 9 to 10. The Sentry now also deals +4 damage versus shields, and the light attribute tag has been removed. The shield damage obviously is only relevant for the Protoss versus Protoss matchup. I may be covering that as well in a future video, but the light attribute tag that's been removed means that it does not take any bonus damage anymore from, for example, Hellions, units that deal bonus damage to light. Alright. All of that being said, this game has been a macro fest. So I guess even though we did have a little bit of a skirmish, a bunch of SCVs going down, Oracle now confirmed 11 kills. This has really just been a macro situation here for both of these players so far. So just straight up full Skytals with a bunch of Colossi here for Classic. Very interesting approach. More than apparently brave enough to play the macro game here against Maru. I find this cool because this is very different. Disruptor joins in as well. This is very different from that hero slash, for example, mech spec style, right? Those players have been very, very low tier focus. So Mass Zealot, Mass Stalker, quick Twilight Council upgrades and all the rest of it. This is like the polar opposite of it. So it really does kind of remind me of Terran Bio versus Terran Mech. With this, of course, being the more Terran Mechy approach. And the Zealot Stalker balls usually feel a lot more like Terran Bio. Very cool. Now, there's one thing that I know about this series, and I don't know when it happened. Small spoiler alert, I suppose, but I can imagine I already put this in maybe the title or the thumbnail of this video too. But from what I understand, there is going to be a massive tactical nuke hit in this particular series. That's all I know. I don't know in what game it happens, but I'm very excited to find out because, I mean, we don't really frequently see tactical nukes connecting. Now, this does look like a game where tactical nukes are gonna be basically a given. Because, I mean, it's 100 minerals, 100 gas. Maru is not quite banking yet because he isn't maxed out, but I mean, we're getting to a point where he will be able to get quite a bit of money going here, and I do imagine he can afford at least a couple of nukes. He already certainly has a Ghost Academy here too. Cloaking upgrade right now coming up for the Ghost. I would not be surprised if there is going to be a tactical nuke here before too long. He's already building a bunch of missile turrets and a sensor tower on the other side of the map. I love this, by the way. I think it's very cool. Colossus, oh my god, gets one shot. How many Vikings is that? 20 Vikings. Ooh. Okay, something went horribly wrong there. Anyways, 20 Vikings in total. He can just point wherever he wants them to fire, and they should be able to get a good bit of damage done. Without Psionic Storm? Yeah, there is no Storm available in this army right now for the Protoss. Without Psi Storm, it's gonna be quite difficult to prevent those clumped up Vikings to really deal damage. We've got ourselves the Templar Archives right now researching that Storm upgrade, so that at least is something right here for Classic. Who's just gonna continue onwards with his, Maru that is, he's just gonna continue onwards right now with his missile turret production. Marauders can indeed reach across those golden minerals. I think you sort of have to commit here at some point, right? Because if the missile turret noose is tightening, it's gonna be very messy for our Protoss player to ever clean all of that up. He is in the meantime expanding towards the right side of the map. We've got golden minerals here already mining for Maru, who didn't even bother building a planetary or, I guess, an orbital command on top of that. No real Zealot run-bys or anything like that here possible for Classic because he's maxed out. He's at 198 supply, and it's all caught up in these very expensive units. I don't know if I like this all too much for Classic, if I'm being honest with you. Like, he's playing into the arms of the most defensive Terran in the world. Like, this is the style that Maru loves to play. And he's doing it with a Protoss late game army. Now, don't get me wrong, Protoss late game is really strong, but I don't consider it to be quite as powerful as the Terran's late game. Although I guess Advanced Ballistics got nerfed. So this upgrade is not quite as powerful as it once was. It's -1 range compared to the previous patch. So maybe that's gonna be indirectly buffing some of those late game Protoss compositions, but it does surprise me a little bit for sure. One thing I also don't really love right here for Classic is his upgrades. Yes, he started upgrading the flying units quite early, but now he's stopped. Terran, in the meantime, is getting +3, and those Vikings are dealing so much damage. Ay, ay, ay. Ah, that's painful. Additional starports are coming up inside of the main base. The nice thing is, you can always just make a bunch of reactors on them, and if you don't need Vikings anymore, you can transition towards Liberators. It's really smooth. There is the +3 already started up for Maru for his air army. That is very early, considering the stage of the game. Classic, with loads of money in the bank, still not continuing his Cybercore research, which really surprises me. EMP is really hitting hard. Okay, that's the type of stuff we want to see. Well, there is an EMP down on at least one of those Templar, and I guess a couple of them. One of them ended up dying as well, but I do think we need to see those storms. Without storms, you can see Maru is just tearing him apart. So far, losing significantly more, the Protoss that is, than the Terran. Classic, can we continue upgrading, please? It's been several minutes. I understand it's hectic to be microing against all of this stuff, but I want to believe in this Protoss army, but I really like what Maru has done here. building a foothold on the, well, I guess on the Protoss side on the map, right? With those Liberators, the sensor tower, the missile turrets. This is not really a situation that's easily breakable. Maybe you could have... There's a tactical nuke coming up. I wonder if it's this game. There is a chance that he can make value, I guess, from Oracles and then Revelation, and then using those, yeah, those Tempests to shoot at their maximum range. But I'm really not very inspired at all with the way that Classic is controlling this army. It's so messy. He's not really doing a very good job here, if I'm being brutally honest with you. So much damage being done here by Maru, who, by the way, doesn't have as big of a bank. That's because he's been building up all of those orbitals, right? So right now, sure, the man doesn't have a lot of money compared to our Protoss, but he has got so many orbitals. He's expanding all over the map. It's not like he's just sitting in the middle of the map and camping here, right? Like, he is still controlling the rest of it, too. Maybe a Liberator or two towards the right side of the map would have been nice to see, but there finally are additional upgrades. So these are so exceptionally late. Mama ship now also coming up. We're adding on 4 additional carriers here. So that at the very least is gonna make, I guess, a full bulldozer approach more manageable. But I feel like he's gonna get EMP'd repeatedly, and without the Templar, how in the world is he gonna get anything done? I wanna believe, but I'm not loving this game right here for Classic. So the only thing that I really do like for him is this base. Maru simply does not know about it. I think Maru is making the assumption that Classic is sort of losing. Is this the nuke? Oh, I really hope for Classic's sake this is not the nuke. Oh, there's the ghost right over there. Careful now, careful now. There's no reason to be here. Back off, back off, back off. Okay. Nah, that can't be the nuke that all of Reddit was very excited about. Anyways, Maru is gonna continue onwards with his soft contain of the Protoss army, making it very difficult for this Protoss to move forward. What are we doing here, Classic? What's the win condition? Playing survival is not a good way to play the game. And this looks like a purely survival approach. It works great in Diamond League, but not at this level, man. You can no longer really make just a death ball. This is horrible. I don't really have any nicer way to put it. Like, yeah, he's got a good army. Yes, he's gonna be able to afford anything he likes. But there is really no way in my mind that Classic is even really breaking out of this. I mean, maybe he can break out of it, but it's gonna be super costly. And I just, even if he breaks out, right? Say he, like, gets rid of all of this over here and he forces the Terran army back home. He's still so far behind. Maru has got mineral fields for days. He's not even able to saturate all of them because he's been, he's making more command centers. We now have 8 command centers, or 8 orbital commands done. He's adding on even more. So we're going up to about a dozen orbitals. That means that Maru can start getting rid of pretty much all of his SCVs. He literally doesn't need SCVs anymore. And when you get rid of all of your SCVs, other than for gas mining, I suppose, you can make a massive army. And Classic is just up with his back against the wall. This does not inspire me. Like, I joke a little bit, but I just don't see how this is a game-winning approach. +3 air weapons are done right now. Tactical nuke, number 2. Don't tell me this is the one. Don't tell me this is the one. It's right there. It's right there. Oh, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. Classic, do you not see that? Classic, do you not see that? Well, I guess that seals the deal. I don't think that nuke was necessary. I am fairly certain that Maru would have been just fine without that destroying the entire Protoss army. But he did get the nuke, and he absolutely dominated game number 1. Now, I don't want to criticize Classic's gameplay all too much, because he's much better than me, and he's been competing at this level for pretty much a decade right now. But that previous game, right? So one of the things that I always talk about whenever I do StarCraft 2 coaching is coming up with a win condition. It's very easy to just play the game and to just make army units and to just build a bunch of structures and stuff, but you have to think, what is my ultimate goal? One of the goals for Protoss players on the ladder is to make a unbeatable army, right? We call that a death ball. Unbeatable armies are really good up until about low Grandmaster League. When you go above that, and obviously these guys are in the upper echelons of Grandmaster League, when you go above that, you can't really win the game with a Death Ball army anymore. The opponent's control and the opponent's, well, game knowledge is just too good to win with one bulldozer approach. So, I joke a little bit that that previous game reminded me a little bit of Classic playing a Diamond League Protoss style. It's just that there's a lot of those players out there on the ladder as we speak. There's so many players that are doing that exact approach right now, where they're just trying to make a big army and then they eventually win. But like I was saying, even if Classic would have broken out of that soft contain, I still don't think he really stood a chance. There was no win condition there, other than I'm just gonna sit here and make a big army, and now I've made my big army and I forgot upgrading it, and now I can't move out. It didn't, yeah, no. It did not spark joy, okay? If I had to hold that Protoss army, it did not spark joy in me at all. Mario Kondo would have told me that I needed to minimize it. Yeah, that's what, yeah, anyways. So, curious to see what Classic is gonna do here. Obviously, keep in mind, he kind of got thrown off in the early game a little bit, because he went for a Robo Facility and a Stargate. And even though I thought the Stargate was weird, he also then ended up killing a lot of SCVs with that one random Oracle. So, maybe he had an original plan, and he just decided to, well, freestyle it a little bit. But it seemed to me that Maru was in control of that game, really from like minute 1 all the way until like minute 20. And then he, well, he closed it out with the biggest nuke that I've seen this year. That was insane. Maybe we will now stop talking about Solar getting all of his army units nuked. I'm just kidding, I won't stop talking about that. No. Actually, in a way, the Solar nukes, right? So Solar has got his army nuked multiple times in very important matches. The Solar nukes were actually important because up until that point in those games, Solar actually looked like he was going to be able to win, right? In that previous game we just watched, it was mostly just the cherry on top of the cake. That game, if you're a Terran fan, it was beautiful from start to finish. Ooh, nice body block here. I love that. Okay. It was beautiful from start to finish. For everything else, though, yeah, I don't think... if you're a fan of Protoss, I don't think you really enjoyed that previous match very much. Maru did see the Stargate. He did see the Phoenix opener. So that means he can start making some decisions here. What exactly do we want to do? Well, so far, we haven't seen any Widow Mines yet. Widow Mines considered to be one of the least liked units in the entire game. A lot of players don't really love Widow Mines. Terrans included, by the way. The funny thing is, it's considered to be, especially in the StarCraft 2 community, especially on Reddit, people have been whining about the Widow Mine for close to a year now. Consistently, I see those posts where people complain about it. We do have one coming up right now, but it really doesn't seem that impactful of a unit in this matchup anymore. Like, some time ago, yes, but the meta has sort of shifted away from the Widow Mines a little bit. So a lot more Cyclone shenanigans and just more variety in general. Anyways, we should be able to now see that new Widow Mine targeting line at the very least. It should be easier to spot. Curious to see exactly how it plays out. I know it's gone through a couple iterations. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that mine. See if it indeed is much easier to point out where it's trying to fire. The entire Terran army right now, by the way, on the other side of the map. I don't really know exactly what Maru is doing here. He's planning on getting damage done with these units, but this is his anti-air. Like, all of these units shoot up, and he doesn't really have much against Phoenixes at home at the moment. Now, this third Nexus is an ambitious plan. I don't think you're going to be able to make that one work. Yeah, immediately gets cancelled. Slow it down a little bit, Classic. We're in a great spot right now. Okay. There's the interference matrix. So this is the style that did get nerfed a little bit. No, I wanted to see the Widow Mine fire. Dang it. Never have I been excited to see a Widow Mine fire until today. And this is the one time we didn't really get to see the targeting line. I think we saw it for like a split second there, but... Okay, fine. I'm sure it'll come up. Maybe not in this game. So Maru, not getting much done with the Widow Mine. Now going into another unit that got slightly nerfed. So, to clarify, you can no longer chain the interference matrix ability. So, Phoenix openers, 9 times out of 10, do lead towards Colossus follow-ups. In the past, you could chain the interference matrix, so if you knew it was just about to wear off, you could cast it again, but now you can no longer do that. You can only do it when the target you're trying to hit is not already infected by interference matrix, and this, of course, is the ability that temporarily disables units. Alright, Twilight Council. This is a lot more conventional right here from Classic. Gonna go for a nice and early 4th Nexus. I do quite like that, because usually Terrans with these openers don't really move out until 1-1 and Stimp Pack and maybe even Combat Shields and all that are done. Assuming we're gonna see that switcheroo. Yep, and Combat Shields over here. This is probably not gonna be a Terran move out for at least another while. And because of that, I mean, you do need to be prepared, because these 4 upgrades are gonna finish up roughly around the same time. But as long as you have army units ready to go when ultimately that army moves across, I think you should be okay here as Protoss. You just don't need to put you don't want to put too much of your emphasis on Colossi, because of course with the Colossi out of the equation, usually that Protoss army becomes very weak. So, how many Ravens do we have? We've got 2 of them. Yeah, he's gonna be able to disable those Colossi quite easily. Okay. Here's the gateway explosion. Second fort's coming up as well. Honestly, I think this game is going to be pivotal as soon as the Terran moves out here. I think that'll be almost a game-deciding moment. If Maru can win the game, or win the fight rather, he can probably win the game eventually. Maybe not immediately, but he should be able to at least get on the top. And I think as long as Classic manages to hold on, his economy should outgrow that of the Terran over the next few minutes. He's already gonna go for a 5th? Are we really gonna just... No, I think we're gonna put down some spotter pylons, right? He's thinking about it. I feel like a 5th would be very greedy. I feel like a 5th would make sense after defending. Well, he's really considering it. I think he's gonna get it. He's got the money for it anyways. He keeps adding on more stuff. Yeah, there we go. Alright. Well, he's making a new command center. A Protoss command center, that is, as the Terran is going for a move out. Observer, by the way, looking really thick. A little bit larger. Model size increased by 10%. Yeah, I don't think I actually mentioned that earlier, but they have a little bit more shields. And their build time has been reduced by about 4 seconds, but they're also a little bit thicker. Gravitic Drive, just about to finish up. So we're shopping right here. Classic is shopping for upgrades that aren't very important. Here are the interference matrices, brilliantly done right now by Maru. I wonder if maybe Classic got a little bit ahead of himself, because he is shopping like there was no Terran army coming across the map. Colossi do wake up once again, though. The Phoenixes, in the meantime, have taken care of a bunch of those important flying Terran units. Yeah, with another warp in, he's going to be A-okay. Okay, no, that was good. Well done right there by Classic in the end, but that certainly did get a bit closer than it needed to. I don't think things like Gravitic Drive and that 5th Nexus were entirely necessary. I was already kind of doubting, honestly, the Dark Shrine, because that's already quite costly. Classic basically spent like 1,000 minerals and 1,000 gas on things that weren't going to help him out defend against that while already have the economical advantage. I mean, he already had it. I think he got a little carried away, but he defended it okay. He defended it okay-ish, which is good enough for him. 1 invisible man, 1 regular man, 1 with a cape, 1 without. In the meantime, Doom drop over in the natural expansion of our Protoss. We have a Widowmine drop over here too, trying to put in a bit of work. Nexus over in the natural expansion though does fall. In the meantime, the Protoss army has made its way across the map. These are some desperation moves right here from our Terran though. He's getting a lot of value with it. Yeah, good crisis management at home in the meantime. Okay. Well, now suddenly that 5th Nexus is really nice. I don't think Maru has even really considered it. Yeah, now he scans. Now he sees that this base is up and running. And that is that moment that your heart sinks as a Terran player. Because if there wouldn't have been a 5th Nexus done at this point, if he didn't have a fully saturated mineral line there, I think this would have been a very good decision by Maru to go for that Doom drop and to try and, well, deal with the crisis at home at the same time. But right now, instead, he finds himself in a very, very annoying position. Because what do? I think you basically just continue going all in, right? He had a 4th command center building, but that one must have been lost in the middle of that fight previously. So now his best bet, I think, is to go for a big push with 2-2. Maybe wait until you're maxed out. Maybe try to just make a big army and go for it. But yeah, if it's up to Classic, I don't think it's really going to be allowed to see the Terran player crawl back into this game. He's double expending, by the way, again. Ay, Classic. Classic is happy making expansions, huh? I like this approach from him a little bit better, though, than the one in the previous game. That Protoss mech, it was cool, but also a little much. Okay. Here we go. Classic has prepared a massive army, and even though Maru wanted to try and max out and maybe go for another all-in, the Colossi right now are retargeting in the middle of that Terran bio ball. Ultimately, though, Maru's still getting a ton of value out of this unit composition. SCVs, they ended up sacrificing themselves for the greater good. 36 workers remain. Classic, please cancel that Nexus, mate. We don't need it. It's too much. All you really need to do is defend this army. We don't need 3-3. We don't need any of that. I think if you defend this army, you win the game. We're making this so close. I mean, he can still warp in another 20 zealots because we don't have any gas for some reason. He's not mining any of the gas on over... What are we doing right now? He's not mining any gas in any of those locations. Not even mining the gas in the natural. Big warp in the meantime over in the main base of our Terran. Why are we turning this into a base race, Classic? I don't think we have to play this desperation style. Problem is, with base racing a Terran, yeah, you can warp in zealots over here if you like, but their structures can fly. The win condition in the game of StarCraft 2 is to destroy all of your opponent's structures, and as long as one of them is hanging out in the corner, you cannot win, and you're gonna ultimately have to address this Terran army at home. Why are we overcomplicating this game? I mean, he is still very far ahead, don't get me wrong, but I feel like this is so much closer than it needs to be. Classic still with 1900 minerals in the bank. All of his infrastructure in the main base right now is unpowered, so that means that he doesn't really have... Oh my god. He doesn't really have a way to spend his money. He's remaking a Dark Shrine and a bunch of stuff in the top right-hand corner of the map, fair enough. Even when Maru is losing, he's still looking like he's in control. You're getting that same vibe? Like, it's kind of nuts. There's a certain rigidity to the top-level players, and I'm really getting it right here with Maru. I don't think he can win this game, but he's making it look surprisingly good for himself. With a good fight, it's doable. There's ghosts in the mix. The problem right here is the Dark Templar. Yeah, I really like the reconstruction of the Dark Shrine over here too, because there's no detection here for our Terran at all. He doesn't have orbital commence anymore. He's got a couple of missile turrets, but there's no detection. Can you send in the Invisible Man, please? Classic. We made the Dark Shrine. The idea was that he didn't have detection. He doesn't have detection. You should just send in the Dark Shrine. Just go. Okay. Why are we... I don't know why we're not sending in the Dark Templar. There is no orbital command, and there is no detection available here from Maru at all. Not all heroes wear capes, but this guy, he could be a hero. Instead, he has been downgraded to a zealot. Go! What are we doing? Why are we... Classic, you're playing with my feelings, man. Hey, he woke up. He woke up. He woke up. Maybe Dark Templar naps standing up. I don't know. Maybe. Just go. Just. Why are you running? Just attack him. I mean, there is detection in the ghost, right? So obviously, if you get an EMP off, you can still shut this down. But usually, what you do is you sprinkle in one DT and then another DT and then another DT, and then ultimately Terran will run out of energy for EMPs. Instead, we're just gonna try and come in from. Okay, from every angle. I feel like this game has been overcomplicated quite a bit. Prism goes down. I think ultimately Classic will still win this. But he was playing with our feelings for just a little while there. Alrighty, so that brings us to the map Ghost River. Ghost River, one of the new maps with the new map pool. This is the one that has a very quick rush distance from natural to natural. And a little bit later on into the game, if you decide to either knock down the rocks or mine out the mineral fields and do the same on the other side, maybe your opponent will do it for you, you can obviously rush across the map even quicker. Got a feeling that a lot of games will be decided by just the first 3 bases on this map. Even though there are a lot of expansions in the bottom section of it, I've got a feeling that a lot of the games will probably come down to the first few, but maybe I'm mistaken. It's just that this is a very rushy map, right? You can get across so quickly. Classic apparently checking right now for proxies as well. I'm not loving the way that Classic has been playing the series, if I'm being really honest with you. I don't know. Like, even the game he just won, you gotta put a little asterisk right next to it. Like, he plays well. It's just that strategically, I don't think it's the best performance we've seen from Classic. Micro-wise, obviously, is very good. Macro-wise could also use some improvement, especially in the later stages of that previous game. But just the decision-making has been a bit questionable. Anyways, let's see. I don't think Maru is really gonna do too much strangeness over here. Although, honestly, like, normally I consider the most normal opener, right, for Terran against Protoss, I consider that to be the Widowmine drop. I guess we can no longer really consider it to be the complete go-to standard. Then again, though, Terran has access to basically any unit they like to make in the first few minutes of the game, so he can do whatever he likes. Still quite a few Cyclones. Yeah, so another rework of the Cyclone. I'm not exactly sure what the current plan for the Cyclone is, to be honest. Like, they overhauled it, obviously. I guess it's more or less just a little bit of fine-tuning compared to where it was previously at. But they've changed the role of it quite a bit once again. I still really believe the Cyclone is just going to be that niche unit that you just every once in a while produce. Maybe you make them every game for, like, you know, harassment purposes and base defense purposes. But I don't really see how they're going to make up the majority of your army at really any time. I mean, we have seen that a bit against Zerg, obviously, where the Cyclone kind of gets used as like a Terran Marine, but then for a mech-based army. That's the only time it can really be a core unit. But the original intent behind overhauling the Cyclone was to make it more viable against Protoss. So the original plan was to make Terran mech a go-to strategy against but I still don't see how the new version, and maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I still don't see how the new version of the Cyclone is going to make that a more feasible approach. Anyways, Widowmines and Hellions. Obviously, you can send them across very easily. Here's once again the Robo facility with the Stargate. So we'll see exactly what Classic had intended. Again, a late Stargate, of course, but maybe he can get some value out of it. Maru really wants to see this. He's gonna go into the main... okay, he sees it over here. He's gonna go into the main base. That sort of positioning, by the way, that's the sort of positioning that you can really only figure out when you've played more games than just the ones that they have been able to play on these maps so far. Obviously, that did have the PTR, but like I was saying, I don't think these guys knew that the new patch was gonna go live, so I highly doubt that they were practicing the PTR. Wait, what? Did he just cancel? He was producing something there. Yeah, okay, he was producing an observer, and then he canceled the observer. So what exactly were we looking for then? This is a very normal opener, and we've decided we don't need the observer. There is a Widowmine. It's not like you can really draw a lot of conclusions from this. Unless you were very scared of, say, for example, I don't know, like an armory rush, or I guess it's no longer an armory rush, huh? Maybe like a drilling claws rush, or maybe like a benchy opener, something along those lines. It's a little bit funky. It's gonna be Phoenixes here for Classic. Okay. Widowmine drop over here. Getting a little bit of damage done, but a good split. You could kind of see the line there, by the way. Ooh, this is a... Do you see that line? That line was very clear. Okay. So I believe the line gets a little bit thicker over time as well. So it's at its thickest when it's just about to fire. Yeah. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, just know that it's at its thickest when it's just about to fire. The Widow Mine, that is. There you go. There's a bunch of them sprinkled around the map right now. Interference matrix once again, so very similar build here from Maru as what we saw in game number 2. Sometimes I say things, man, that are... Anyways. I feel like you could do like a compilation of all of the weird things that I've said in a StarCraft video and just upload it as a separate video. There's a lot of innuendos over the years. Fortress coming up together with a Twilight Council right now here. Classic ready to put in a bit of work. Just once again playing that mech-based Protoss army, right? This really surprised, or this really... Ooh, can we... Okay. Fair enough. This really does remind me of mech. So... I don't really like this all too much for Classic, to be honest. Like, we saw where it led in game number 1. And Maru just sort of let him do whatever he liked. And it turns out, ultimately, what Maru really liked was nuking his entire opponent's army and containing him. Maybe the follow-up right now is going to be a little bit different. So Classic is going to go for what seems to be a much faster transition right now towards a ground-based army. So rather than rushing up towards carriers and Tempest and playing that super slow approach, this is a similar opening right here for Classic, but then a different transition. So it looks like we are going to be going into at least Mass Zealot, maybe also a bunch of Stalkers here momentarily, but a nice and quick 4th base. I think it's a good choice. Yeah. Maybe Maru is going to make the assumption that this will be the same follow-up as what we saw in game number 1. That can obviously be quite dangerous, but then again, Marine Marauder, Medevac, Mine, it's a good unit composition against everything. I don't think a lot of Terran players are like, oh man, I shouldn't have made Marine Marauder Medevac. Oh, if only I didn't make Marine Marauder Medevac, I would have been in a great spot. No, that doesn't really happen. Can't really go wrong. Dude, you can unsiege over here, though, and then get to the other side of the map in like 10 seconds, it feels like. It's insanely fast. If Classic is not prepared, he needs to be in the right spot. There we go. He does see his army here. I think the Observer must have seen it just barely in the nick of time. The Observer does look large, doesn't it? It really does look bigger. So it's only 10% bigger, but it's significant. Don't make a clip of that, okay? Thank you. All I'm saying is I didn't think I would notice a 10% improvement. But it's, yeah. It's noticeable. Drop right over here in the natural expansion. And I do quite like this here from Maru, because this is very chaotic, right? Those units obviously naturally spread out when you drop them out of a moving airplane. And that makes the Colossus splash damage not quite as powerful. Then again, ooh, well, yeah, okay, I really do like those additional High Templar here. They don't quite have Storm yet, I don't think. No. But they do have feedback, and obviously they can morph into Archons too if they want. Problem right here, though, for our Protoss player is that he's losing tons and tons of workers in the process. So this is a style from our Protoss player where you really want to try and almost like Zerg the Terran, but you can't really do that when you only have 50 probes. So he's going to have to remake that economy. I think Maru can call that a very successful attack. Ghost Academy coming up right now. We've got ourselves 2-2. Keep in mind that the Ghost Academy is great against like Archons and Spellcasters and all the rest of it. But if your opponent has a lot of Zealots, those also clump up together. I mean, Ghosts are phenomenal against Zealots. Careful now, Classic. Okay, he does manage to keep this alive and gets a nice set of force fields down as well, trapping a bunch of those Marauders. I was a little afraid for those Colossi just finding themselves up with the back against these rocks and, well, disconnected from the main bulk of the army. One of the problems, I guess, when you get the Zealot speed improvement, suddenly they run away from the Colossus. Anyways, Maru has got a brilliant push coming up with 2-2. If he wants to, I don't even really think he needs to. He's gonna go for a 4th command center here instead. Now, he's seen this base a little while ago, so he knows exactly what he's playing against now too. So no possibility right here from what we saw in game number 2 for Maru to really get a misread. That's really where it went wrong in the previous match. He made some decisions based off of what he saw, but not of what the opponent actually had. Alright, well, ultimately, apparently the Zealot-based army is still going to be transitioning towards the second Stargate and a fleet beacon. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I love this army here for Classic. This is going to be a tough hold. This is 2-2 Terran, now with Ghost in the mix. Bunch of Vikings have also joined in, which I quite like. Okay, EMP right there. Not on the Archon, but on a lot of Zealots and a bunch of the Colossi as well. Battery overcharge? What is that battery overcharge, Classic? Come on. He just battery overcharged against a retreating Terran ball. Anyways, this is Zealot warp in right now in the main base. Terran has brought most of the army back. Gonna need it as well. Only a handful of SCVs have gone down so far. No retargeting from those Zealots. No target firing at all with those Zealots. So unlike those Terran drops that we have seen where loads of probes went down, this was a similar push, but with a lot more Terran, or sorry, a lot more Protoss units going down and ultimately very few Terran workers. Only 4 SCVs here in total. 5th Nexus coming up in the bottom right-hand corner. +1 air weapons coming up. 3-3 research here as well for Classic. I do like the upgrade game in this match, but a little afraid it's gonna not work out all too well. You cannot afford losing these Zealots. Please bring them back. Okay. We're gonna just commit here instead. In the meantime, there's also a big push moving up towards the front. SCVs are going to be pushed towards this mineral line as well, towards this army. But is there enough right here for Classic? So this is what Maru has been aiming for a little while already. Doesn't he just have a superior army? I think the answer is yes. Classic, again, aiming for a bit of a deathball-y approach. Loads of Zealots on the other side of the map, well-upgraded Zealots too, in the middle of a Stargate transition. I mean, this is okay, this is dealing a bit of... The problem is, right, trading workers evenly never really goes that well for Protoss, because Terran still has mules. Production here getting shut down. I think the reinforcing units here for Terran should be able to clean all of this up here eventually. And then there's still this massive ball of Terran that needs to be addressed. There's one Tempest coming up right now. Soon Classic is gonna have one Tempest and a Dream, but it turns out the Tempest does not spawn, and neither does the Dream. It's gonna be Maru who obtains the victory.